Alright, how's it going everyone? Today we're doing a Heliod God of the Sun deck tech. It's a deck that I've been playing the past, I don't know, month and a half or 2 months. I like Heliod a lot. It's a fun card to play with, and this is the deck that I kind of came up with once I finally figured out what I wanted to play. I've changed out cards here and there, so I'm not sure this is the optimal or best build. I've kind of strayed away from like more of the heavy token theme that I had at the beginning because it was a little bit janky and didn't quite get there. Heliod wants you to have a lot of permanents with white mana costs in their, in their casting cost, and playing a lot of token producers usually doesn't let you do that. And a lot of the white token producers aren't the best, but it's pretty nice. So I'm not saying this is the best build. It's kind of the build I had come up with, and we'll see what's got it. So we have our non-basic lands on the left, so I'll go through those first and go left to right. We've got Ancient Tomb, obviously a powerful card. Cavern of Souls. There isn't really a tribal theme, but it lets you basically, at least gives you one shot to cast whatever creature you want without it getting countered. So Heliod's a good target for that, or put it on God, and it just looks cool. Nykthos. So Nykthos just started out with this deck. It's actually the first deck I put it in, and I like Nykthos. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not great, sometimes it's just a colorless land. But I think it's actually a lot better than I originally thought, just because of the fact that it doesn't come in play tapped and it taps for colorless, unlike Cabal Coffers. Cabal Coffers actually doesn't tap for color mana on its own, so you can't just play like a Soul Ring off Cabal Coffers turn one when you can with this. So you have our fetch lands: Flooded Strand, Windswept Heath, Arid Mesa, and I'm missing Marsh Flats. Just don't have a Marsh Flats. Meant to get one at some point, so you can play that one. A Ganjo Castle. Probably should just put this in as a plains. I've never actually. I don't think I've ever used this. I think the only targets for it are Thalia, and some of the bigger creatures, which doesn't really matter. But I like it because I just like the card, so it's in there. You can probably just cut this, put a plains, or put some other white land you might like better. Emiria. I've gone to Emiria activating a couple of times, and when it actually gets off, it gives what mono white reach in the late game, which mono white does not have a ton of reach in the late game, just because you kind of put all your cards on the table, and if someone just destroys them all, you're kind of screwed because you have no way to refill your hand or actually prevent that from happening. So Emiria gives you a late game reach and makes your plains the top decked plains into not dead draws. We have Flagstones. We're not playing Armageddon. Armageddon and those kind of cards are things you could play, which makes Flagstones even more powerful, but it's just a land that protects against Strip Mine, Tech Edge, Acidic Slime, just a land that they can't destroy for value. I mean, it's just good to have. Also, it works with another land we have. Cabira Crossroads. I put this in the deck just because it was a white land that did something. You could cut it. It does get, it can get wastelanded, and I've actually had it. I think I've had that happen to me. So something you consider cutting, just gives you some life. Doesn't really interact with most of the deck. Mistful Plains. So this is a way you can put things back into your library if they get blown up. Also, I haven't played with it a ton, but I think if you played this, played with it a lot more, there will be times someone can't reanimate one of your creatures because you have this ability on available to you. So it's kind of a way for people to stop from like reanimating your creatures, which can be a problem. Nubenalia. So Nubenalia is like Scryland, just mono white, and I like it. I think it's pretty good. It does kind of make you keep like one land, or not one land, but like 2 land hands with Nubenalia is the one. It helps, and I like it, so you should definitely play it in mono white. I don't know about other colors, other mono white, non-mono white things. I'm trying to say. Buried Ruin. There are times where we want a Buried Ruin. There's times where you'd really rather have it be a plains. It's one you could consider cutting for plains. I've activated it a few times and it's been fine, but it's not the best thing ever. Alright, Dust Bowl. So Dust Bowl is a pretty nice one. You don't tend to need a lot of land, so if you have an excess of land, you can get rid of their problem lands. Also, you can get back Flagstones. If you sacrifice Flagstones, you just get a plains anyway. And if you have Flagstones, Dust Bowl, and what's it called? the Crucible world, you can just pretty much, you know, kill one of their lands for no cost of your own besides 4 mana, which is pretty sweet. You're just putting a land into the graveyard and you're getting it back, so it's pretty nice. Okay. Core Haven, and this card can be pretty useful. It is a little mana intensive on like Maze of Ith, but Maze of Ith doesn't, this doesn't untap the creature, but it does cost you 3 mana essentially. But unlike Maze of Ith, it does tap for mana, and it won't get legendary ruled anymore now that the legendary rule is out of place, which is a little nice. Miki Koro, so you're a little bit light on card draw. Sometimes it'll just be like you'll have nothing left in your hand and you just need to draw a card, and this is helpful in mono white. I wouldn't play this in most other colors, and I think mono white you definitely struggle to draw cards, and that's where I would place it. Visuals Workshop, so I don't like to put this in every single deck because this deck does have a lot of artifacts. I'll sort it out later, but it does let you play swords really easily. Like you can have 4 mana and then just drop Visuals Workshop, cast the sword right off of it, and then equip it right away. That'll surprise people. So we have Reliquary Tower. I think every deck should have Reliquary Tower in case somebody starts doing something silly and you just end up getting a ton of cards. You never know. And then Strip Mine, everyone's favorite card. Thawing Glacier is kind of not like you searching out for colors that you don't have, but just kind of recurring land draw that you need in mono white, because there isn't a ton of options for mono white to get card advantage like that. And we have our planes. I think we're running 3 of the non unglued lands because I don't have enough. So we're running, let's see how many lands. Oh, I'm missing a card. Oh, one moment, I'm missing a card. Let's see, what am I missing? I must have cut something by accident. I just realized my Spirit Heliod. I just put it next to Heliod at the bottom, that's why. It's because it's a cool. I like the theme. Heliod having his weapon. So we are running 18 planes, so pretty good. We have 38 land, which is about where I think this deck needs to be. You wouldn't want more than that, and you wouldn't really want less because your abilities tend to be mana hungry, like all your equipment, and then Heliod's ability itself, anything like Spirit Heliod. So here's our little mana ramp package. It's not that heavy. Cage Sun, Gilded Lotus. Cage Sun's nice as an anthem as well, which is relevant if you're making a ton of tokens. I'm using the new Gilded Lotus art just because I'm kind of tired of the other one. I don't really like most of from the Vault 20 cards, but I like this art. Coalition Relic. You would rather have this, I think, over Worn Power Stone, just because you do need colored mana a lot. Even though Worn Power Stone's always 2 mana, this is sometimes 1, sometimes 2, depending on whether you use the charge or not. Mind Stone, early ramp and then card draw, cycle it out later when you don't need it anymore. You get flooded. I like that. Mind Stone's just a really great card. I wish they made cards like this now, but the mana rocks they make now are a lot more expensive. I don't think do you think Mind Stone would be overpowered in like standard? Like, I don't really think it would be. I think it would be fine. Soul Ring and Mana Crypt, everyone's 2 best friends on turn 1 or turn 2. That leads to nice fun games. And then here's our grunts. These are our soldiers of battle here. Duplicate, this colorless removal, which is nice when someone like pro whites you with an Iona, or they have a pro white creature you can't get through, and just Duplicate can get rid of it. Most of the times I've Duplicate something is when somebody like has stolen one of my fatties, like an Avacyn or like Elish Norn. I've gotten lucky and just had Duplicate, and a Duplicate cast off our Visuals Workshop, which is really awesome. Revel Arc, you do have some small creatures, and this gets them back. And it is a 4/3 flyer, which is a nice thing to have in the sky, because you can attack into planeswalkers and get over people's blockers. Spelltide Enforcer, I just like this effect. I don't think it's the best card. It probably could be cut. But people tend to put the removal on it, which is nice. It clears the way for your bigger threats later. It is a little expensive. It's something that could be cut for a better card, I think. You might want Geist Honored Monk more than this card. and I should have a Geist Iron Monk. I meant to buy one, and it's kind of one of those things that you're like, oh, I'm gonna go get one, and I just like forgot to. So keep that in mind. Stoneware Giant. This card is awesome. It's like, it's obviously similar to Stoneforge Mystic, but you don't get the effect right away. You have to be able to untap and then use his ability. But his ability puts it right onto the creature, and you can just keep doing it every turn. And like I've made like Stoneware Giant, Voltrani, kill your opponent things. I've killed a lot of people with this card, and I don't know why it's not played as much. I guess a lot of white decks are usually more controlling, and this is more of an aggressive card. So that's why. And then we have Archon Justice, which is just sweet. You just throw this out there, and then every permanent they have is threatened. And he's a great blocker, great attacker, and if you Wrath, you can still kill one of their Planeswalkers or whatever they have that's annoying. Restoration Angel. It's just fine to save a creature, play it at a turn, attacking someone's Planeswalker, blink a guy that's, a value creature. I haven't had a bit like broken, but I think it's fine. And it is an aggressive creature that can hold a sword as well. And we have Core Cartographer for a little ramp because we're a little desperate for it. Puts the planes on the battlefield. You can get Mistfield Planes with this, which is nice. You can get it right away and put it in tap since Mistfield Planes does come in the battlefield tap. And we have Hero Bladehold, one that I added a little bit later on. And I like Hero Bladehold a lot. If you have Anthem effects in play, like the Spear of Heliod or the Crucible of Worlds, you obviously get bigger tokens. And the Battlecry is nice. It is a little expensive, 4 mana, but it is a nice blocker as well as a 3/4. I like this card a lot. I'm surprised it isn't played more often. And then we have a Academy Rector. It's not that broken in this deck. It's nice when somebody, is on the aggressive side and you're on the defensive side. You just drop this down and they don't want to attack anymore. And that's a good enough thing. It does get some enchantments. We have an enchantment column, which we'll get to. Some Solemn Simulacrum. Yep, he's a ramp, and he's a card draw. He's like Core Cartographer, but just a little bit better for the most part. He does get cast off a Mithra's Workshop, which is nice. We have Aven Mind Sensor. It's a card I tried it also towards the end. I actually kind of like it. It kind of screws up your opponent's plans. Haven't blown people out too much with it. It always seems like they always have the fetch land like right before Aven Mind Sensor, or they like have it right after and they kill it first. So, but it is something that's pretty much a must kill for a lot of decks. It's not quite as impressive as like Stranglehold, where they can't search libraries at all. But like if somebody like Demonic Tutor, I've had people Demonic Tutor, and then I've cast Aven Mind Sensor, and they only get to look at the top 4 cards instead, which is a lot better than your opponent Demonic Tutoring for whatever they want. Flicker Wisp, kind of like Restoration Angel, but I've actually had the first game I played with this deck, I think I had Flicker Wisp. My opponent casts Phylactery Lich, the one that has to put a Phylactery counter onto an artifact, and as long as that counter's there, he's indestructible, but if he's not, he gets sacrificed, and I've flickered their Phylactery countered artifact and killed their Phylactery Lich. It was pretty awesome. It hasn't happened too much. Also, if someone plays, what is that? It's the 3-mana artifact that doubles your mana, but you have to exile a land. The name is escaping me now. I played that card so many times, you'd think I would know. I don't know what it is. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Someone will say in the comments. But it's pretty awesome to basically get rid of that, and they have to exile another land or decide not to, and you just stone rate them. War Priest of Thune. Man, this guy's sweet. I pretty much liked having all of my heavy white decks. And there's a lot of problem enchantments, obviously. And he is a cleric, so if you're going to go cleric tribal with your build of this deck, you could actually have things that pump clerics and that matter. There's some good, what block had all the cleric tribal stuff, like Daru's Stinger and, Battlefield Medic, so he could be a part of that theme. And then we have Thalia, and Thalia does hurt us a little bit. But playing turn 2 Thalia usually hurts your opponents a lot more. Like, I remember I played turn 2 Thalia, and then my opponent cast, Rampant Growth, 2 turns later, because they couldn't cast it right away. It really messes with people's plans, especially if people want to hold up counter spells on their turn, or your turn, and then they can't play around Thalia very easily. And then Stoneforge grabs a bunch of equipment, always situational. Usually you want to get sort of, one of the swords. Feast and Famine is usually better, because then you can untap and use your mana. It's mostly the most important part of it, and making them discard. but always dependent. And Grand Abolisher, this card really messes with people. A lot of people haven't played against it. It's surprising that more people don't play Grand Abolisher, because he is supremely annoying. And he has the sweetest weapon in Magic the Gathering, I think. Like, if someone has a cooler looking weapon they know on a card, let me know, but look at that thing. It's this long staff with chains and, like, maces at the end of it. And it looks like a really dangerous weapon to use. Like, I don't know how he's using that without hitting himself in the face. But he's obviously a badass, and he doesn't actually hurt himself. So, there he is. He's a 2/2. He's a grunt. He doesn't do a lot of attacking, but he does early on, and that's a nice thing. But a lot of times people won't realize he stops your opponent. They can't use their activated abilities. I had like a Scion of the Urn Dragon try to block with Scion and then like use his ability to tutor for the dragon, and he couldn't. He was like, oh. So yeah. And then Sarah Ascended, another favorite of everybody. A card that probably should be banned in Commander, I would think. At least if there was a dual Commander ban list, but the Rules Committee is never gonna. It seems like never gonna make a dual Commander ban list for Magic the Gathering Online. But it's kind of necessary, I think, in a deck like this. You're aggressive. Sometimes you're a little bit all in. You kind of need to get an advantage early on so that those decks playing Sylvan Library can't just pay 8 life without consequence. It kind of keeps people honest and forces them to not just sit around and do nothing forever. It can be hard for a card like a mono red deck to deal with. That's one thing I don't like about it, is like mono red tends to really struggle against Sarah Ascendant because burn is really expensive at that level. Then we have Batterskull as our equipment slot starter. Obviously very good. It's good on Heliod, kills your opponent fast. I think with Stoneware Giant, you can actually equip Batterskull when you use his ability. It has to come into play as on a germ token, but I'm not sure. I think I've had that happen where I wanted to equip Stoneware Giant, but it wouldn't let me do that. It just came on the germ token. Sword of Feast and Famine, obviously black and green protection, and then when it deals combat damage, untap your lands. It lets you use Heliod's ability and lets you cast more spells, and I like it a lot. Light and Shadow, so a lot of your creatures are going to get killed, and this lets you help get them back. The life gain is kind of weak. It can be relevant. There are times where you just need that 3 life for several turns to stay alive. And then Sword of Fire and Ice, classic, awesome card. I like this art better than the Chris Ron art on both of these. I like the Mark Slug art better. And I like how this guy's like no head. I have no idea what's going on in this picture, but it's sweet. Then we have Lightning Greaves, giving everything haste, obviously very powerful, and Shroud. And then Jite. Usually you trade it for Jite against like an elf deck. If someone goes like turn 1 like Llanowar Elves and like then goes into Azuri, like you're gonna need to kill those elves off, and it's gonna be a lot easier to do that with a Jite than with a sword for the most part. And you just don't want to get overrun with the elves. And if you ever played against Jite in Commander, even though it seems like it's not that powerful, it is so annoying to play against. It's just a must kill, and it has a sweet picture of the moon in the background, which is something. There's our enchantments. We have True Conviction. So the nice thing about True Conviction, it does cost 3 white mana, which helps activate Heliod for Devotion. Double Strike and Lifelink. This is generally what I get with Academy Rector. And it's a really, helps you kill your opponent really fast. And the Cathar's Crusade, it's one I added towards the end. I kind of forgot about it originally. I haven't had it become super relevant. People tend to kill it really fast when I've had it. Just my luck. But if you do have Heliod and you keep activating Heliod, that's going to make your creatures become really hard to handle. And we've got Kismet, and it's just an effect I like. I don't think it's the best card ever, but it has a sweet picture, and that's just an effect I like. And it does help you attack as well, and it gets rid of haste for people. Aura of Silence, it's basically a removal for artifacts and enchantments, slows your opponents down, and it makes Heliod Devotion go up faster. One thing about Aura of Silence is that there are decks that are really artifact heavy. Like I was playing a deck I was testing recently was really artifact heavy, and my opponent went turn 3 Aura of Silence, and basically every card in my hand was like, I couldn't cast anymore. So you've never seen how annoying this card is until it's on the other side of the table. Oblivion Ring, Acid Devotion, removes a permanent. It's one card you have to be careful with. I don't like to play Oblivion Ring. It is a really powerful card, but there's a lot of naturalize in this format, and I think people play Oblivion Ring a lot more often than they should. But this is a deck where it's fine. Even killing a commander for the 2 mana, delaying a commander from coming out and then staying on the board as a devotion adder, and then you can always flicker it with Flicker Wisp later if they send it the commander to the command zone, which is nice. And then we have land tax, kind of like card advantage. Make sure you hit your land drops. It's always a really awesome card as long as you're not on the play and you have all the land. And sometimes that does happen. And then here's our card draw slot. Staff of Nin, not the best, but it's card draw, a little bit of removal. Mind's Eye, kind of a necessary thing in mono white. And then we've got Mimic Vat is sort of like a card advantage engine, if depending on what you put underneath. If you put like a Stoneforge Mystic, or like you put down a Solemn Simulacrum or whatever, it also helps you kill your opponents faster. And it also exiles whatever's annoying that they might have wanted in their graveyard. Keep that in mind. Crucible of Worlds, not a card people like to play against. I like this mainly for its fetch lane ability, but you know, it's good with, like I said, Dust Bowl, you know, obviously Strip Mine, and it's good with Dust Bowl and especially Flagstones. I had that combo once and I felt really dirty because you're not even losing your land drop for the turn because you're still getting a land. And then Sensei's Top, Card Manipulation, and then Skull Clamp, which is actually also an equipment and also card draw, and very good with your little Heliod tokens. It's good with, you know, if you just need to cash in your Thalia, whatever it is, Hero Blade Hole tokens. That's why I think maybe Geist Honored Monk should be here. And here's our removal like Wrath slot. Austere Command. A pretty nice one. It's flexible. It's a really blowouty card if you get hit with it at the right moment. It's never one you want to see cast usually. Terminus. Not been impressed with Terminus. I've just never really felt value from this card. And also, if you cast this when you have Devotion, you're going to kill your own Heliod. So you have to be very careful with that card. And then Day of Judgment, just worse Wrath of God. I just don't have a Wrath of God, and if you wanted to replace it with Wrath of God, you could, but it's up to you. I don't feel like I need both of them. I think it's just a little too much. Return to Dust, a really nice card. I like this card a lot. Played in pretty much most of my white decks, and lets you get rid of two things. It's like Into the Core, but much better because you don't have to have two targets. And you can hit enchantments, obviously. Hollow Barrel, a Terminus that costs one less but doesn't have Miracle. I find out that this is usually better than Terminus. Terminus off the top, it just randomly is not as good as costing, I think, one less mana for the most part. Now we have Swords to Plowshares, self-explanatory, Path to Exile, and Condemn as our 3/1 mana spot removals. Not a lot of spot removal in the deck, but you kind of want to put your opponent on the back foot, and that's kind of your spot removals, making them sacrifice their creatures to block. Here's our Planeswalkers. Big Daddy Karn, good with the fast mana if you get it out. Gets rid of problems that are maybe pro-white, like I said, and kills other Planeswalkers, which is a nice thing. Gideon, pretty good. I like Gideon a lot. Obviously, he does his job. Elspeth, the new Elspeth is awesome. 3 tokens, destroys creatures. Pretty much what mono white needs, actually. More creatures and killing their big dudes. But be careful you don't kill your own big dudes, obviously. Elspeth Terrell, other Elspeths, pretty good as well. Clem's life gain's relevant, and it kind of makes your opponent play around her -5, which is nice. Just don't blow up your own things, obviously. And then the other Elspeth, all 3 Elspeths are in there. Which one is probably the best? Probably the 4-mana one. The 6-mana ones actually have been very impressive to me. And a Johnny. So Johnny's one. Tried out for this deck. He has a good devotion counter. You know, gives you 2. The game on 2 life isn't really that relevant, especially early in the game when you play him. But I've actually killed with his white avatar creature token, has power and toughness equal to your life total. It only takes 2 turns to get there. Well, basically 3. You can also keep him around and then, keep your Johnny and, still put out a token. But I had somebody, attack me and then, or do something really silly, and then I just -6. I had Lightning Greaves on the table and just killed them instantly because my life total is higher than theirs. It was funny. I mean, this token's pretty relevant. The only problem with the token, it doesn't have flying, so you have to find a way to get through if they have random chump blockers or something with Death Touch. And then as our big fat daddies, we've got Avacyn, Angel of Serenity, Elish Norn, and Big Bad Sun Titan. So Avacyn's pretty sweet. I drafted this one, so it's in there. I like Avacyn a lot, but people actually, when they bribe me, they usually don't take Avacyn, which is funny. You gotta be careful with Avacyn though. If someone just clones it, it's just so annoying. I had someone evil twin my Avacyn, and then they what did they do? They like tucked my Avacyn. I was just like super salty. And then we have Angel's Serenity. Card I haven't actually been seeing play at all. I haven't seen this card cast in so long, which is weird. But you know, it obviously has a very powerful effect whether you want to get rid of your opponent's creatures or get things out of your graveyard so that if they kill your angel, you get it back. And then the triple white is not really a detriment in this deck. You actually want high, white commitments. Elish Norn, pretty sweet, awesome card. People usually bribery at my Elish Norn, which is understandable. And then if you have a way to deal with Elish Norn, it's fine. But she just killed your opponent fast, and then Sun Titan. Sun Titan gets it back a lot of stuff. Then we have Spirit of Heliod, which I haven't talked about. So it's basically Glorious Anthem with a little bit of an upside. I actually haven't had the destroy target creature that dealt damage. I've never actually gotten to use that yet because usually the deck is very mana hungry. You don't want to just sit around on Spirit of Heliod while your opponent ramps their mana or does whatever. You want to kind of put pressure on them. So the mana cost is relatively high. It's really heavy in this this 4 area. If you notice, it's kind of centered around here. Look at the stats. We've got 3.77, so it's pretty expensive. Cards you could consider, like I considered Honor of the Pure. It was okay. It just doesn't really affect the board much, especially early. World Queller, I actually liked this card a lot at first. I had some good games with this in Mimic Vat, where I could basically do this end of turn and then make my opponent sacrifice whatever I wanted them to. And then if you have Cleric tokens, you can make people sacrifice enchantments, since Heliod makes enchantments. And that way you don't have to lose your Heliod or whatever. And then the Soulblade Paladin, if you want to be more aggressive, it does have a double white, which is nice. Odric, if you really want to be aggressive. Mangara, I've seen people playing Mangara in this list when I played against them, but it's a one-shot thing. I don't think Mangara is worth it unless you get it on a Mimic Vat somehow. Skullclamp Mimic Vat Mangara, yeah, get there. Journey, Journey's pretty good. It's cheap, and then it adds to Devotion. And if you do this commander just like O-Ring, you can get it back. But people just run so many naturalizes. I don't want to, Journey to Nowhere, somebody's, Titan, and they get it back, and then you're so sad. And then Glimmer Point Stag, if you want to do some more blinky shenanigans. Gideon, he's not, I don't know. I would need to play with him some more. The Johnny I tried out at first, not really impressed with him in this deck. Tangible Virtue is a little too cute for me. I tried it out. Sculpting, still, you do have a lot of artifacts that might be worth copying. And then Helm. Helm is one I actually haven't tried out. I was looking at the list now, and when you're making free tokens, Helm is a lot better. Like, Helm is good in kiki-jiki because you can make free tokens that are going to die anyway. But stealing your opponent's best creature for the cost of like some cheap 2/1 cleric or a 1/1 token is something worth considering. So this is something we might want to try out. And then another mana doubler. The reason I like Gauntlet as much as Cage Stone is pretty obvious. Cage Stone affects all of your white producing lands, and this one only affects basic lands. And this one also doubles your opponent's white mana if they have basic lands, so it can be a little sketchy at times. So that's my deck. Let me know what you think. I like playing with it a lot. It's fun. It's a little bit of the aggressive, control-ish side of things, I would say. Sometimes you just draw 2-3 wraths, and you're just well, I have nothing to do, and that's unfortunate. But I like it a lot. And then the fact that you have Heliod out there as something to do if you have nothing to do is a nice bonus. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded for you. Thanks for watching as always. I actually made a new deck for you guys. It's going to be completely out of the box, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be really hilarious, and I think you'll be surprised to see it. So, thanks for watching.